Shane Byrne, welcome back to Dublin's 98 FM. Shane, how are you?
Not too bad now. Not too bad at all.
Now, Shane, I watched the game last night with a mate of mine, and he said to me, "Are you talking about this on the radio in the morning?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And he goes, "Well, good luck to you trying to analyse this." That was after about 80 minutes. And then, of course, we know what happened next, Shane. You've been around Irish rugby a long time. Is that and was that the most and best memorable moment in Irish Six Nations history? And if not, Shane, what was better?
Yeah, no, you have to say that was just an incredible build-up. Let's just take that in isolation, that 41 phases of rugby it took to do that. So that's flawless rugby for that amount of time. Great team effort, great control by Conor Murray. Nobody really ever takes a drop goal from 45 yards out. It looked almost like a panic decision, that it was just, oh my God, we're running out of time, we better take it. But if you actually look at it closely, which I have several times now, Sexton called for the ball. He was happy. It was built on, he was happy to take it then, which honestly makes it, the bravery of the guy. There's another way of putting it as well. The way that he struck the ball was absolutely magnificent. And what an end to a game. The game itself, we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but that instance itself, you could almost say a defining moment, hopefully this year. You could say leading on to something greater, but a defining moment for Johnny Sexton's career.
Yeah, and you felt as those phases were going on, as you mentioned, it was 41 in the end before he scored and we won the game. But you're wondering, is there going to be a chance? Is there going to be a chance? And because we hadn't created many, if any, other real try-scoring chances or proper scoring chances in the game, bar all the penalties, you're saying if we're going to win this, it's going to be a drop goal. So I'm sure in Johnny Sexton's own head, he was building up to that moment that if I do get the opportunity to drop out and to receive the ball, I've got to score a drop goal. And if I miss, we lose.
Yeah, we've heard from him in interviews afterwards that he was trying to make up for his missed penalty and he wanted another chance. Now, the one thing you'd be saying is, I remember thinking myself, just as we always do whenever any team gets in that situation, you'd love to have Ron O'Gara there for that, because Johnny is known for doing those moments. And then we just saw what is probably a flaw that follows him. That kick was from the same position that haunted him from that New Zealand game. He's missed every now and again. There's huge gaps in between it, but every now and again, a pressure kick, he misses it. So it just leaves that little question mark over his temperament in the ridiculous pressure situations. But in fairness to him, what a response! For the guy to turn around and demand the ball at that situation, because if you were out of half, Ireland were in control of that game. At that time they were making good yardage with the ball. You should have waited a few more phases, but the fact that he was ready, which gave him, once he snapped it back, France weren't ready for it either, so there was nobody charging him down, so he had a full wind up for it. And my hat is completely off to him. It was an absolutely amazing occasion, but it doesn't take away from a game that had many, many flaws for Ireland.
Yeah, and we heard earlier on from Joe Schmidt who was saying that he wasn't sure if the kick actually had the pace to make it over the bar, and thankfully it did. And of course, a few minutes earlier he'd missed a penalty to make it 15-6, and France then went and got their try and conversion and were leading right until the very end. Shane, just talk me through what would have been going through Johnny's head there and the risk involved from his point of view in that position, because as we said, if he missed it, it's game over, and he did take a big risk. Thankfully for us, it paid off.
Yeah, well, look, that's the I suppose the measure of the man is simply the fact is that we learned afterwards, because it was one of those kicks that everybody would have screamed at the telly for the split second when he hit it. It was no, oh no, don't do it now. The same as the crossfield kick, but the bravery of the guy, the kahunas, to be honestly, to do those things, to execute those moves, is just shows the quality of the player, because a lot of players can shrink away from that after, as you say, missing a kick to put them clear, technically put them out of sight of a try, one score that France would have had to score twice. And it was just how he responded to it was superbly. And then to get afterwards, that's exactly what he was looking for. He was looking for the opportunity to have one more goal, which is exactly what you want from an out half. That's, if you play that position, you put that 10 jersey on your back, You have to be able to step up and take the opportunities. And, as I said, Ronan O'Gara had many flaws at 10, and some of the things he was best in the world at. But one of his greatest qualities was that if there was ever an opportunity to take a drop kick, he would be there to take it. He would be the man to do it. And Johnny Sexton was that man yesterday. There was no doubt about it.
Shane, I was really interested last night listening to Luke Fitzgerald on TV. He said that Johnny Sexton practices these moments before and after every training session. Is this real proof that in big pressure moments, practice does make perfect?
But that's key to it. These world superstars that we see, it's not just the simple fact that they've amazing talent, they've amazing abilities. It's their work rate, it's their work ethic that sees them to that point. Johnny Sexton had hit that drop goal in training hundreds and hundreds of times, and in his mind he'd played out this exact scenario hundreds and hundreds of times. And Brian O'Driscoll was an unbelievably hard trainer. To me, one of the greatest examples of that, another out half, was Johnny Wilkinson. Like, if that guy had no talent whatsoever, he trained so hard, he still would have been an amazing player. And Johnny Sexton has so much talent, as we know, and so much ability, but yet his work ethic is an absolute shining beacon and an example to all young aspiring players out there, is that no matter who you are, what you do, you have to train, you have to work hard, and you have to perfect your skill set. And these are the exact moments that was needed for that Johnny Sexton hit a 45-metre drop goal in the last second to win a game in Paris. And that's exactly what those moments are for.
Shane, the back page of the Irish Daily Mail headline is Drop of Magic, and the Irish Sunday Mirror goes, "Cheers Johnny, deadly boot of Sexton, Nick's unlikely late win for Ireland in Paris." And we do need to just take a step back and realise, Shane, the performance overall, we were losing the game towards the end because, we hadn't been able to create anything bar the penalties in the match, and that has to be a concern for Joe and everybody moving forward. Me watching, I was bored. I didn't really enjoy the match, of course, the most exciting end you could think of, but we need to just ensure that the result doesn't overshadow what was a performance that lacked a lot.
Yeah, massively so. It's kind of a hard game to analyse after the fact, because that moment at the end was such an absolutely huge thing. But Ireland didn't play well, and I thought they tactically played into France's hands. As in, it was a game. Some games you have to, you have to control the game. Like, Ireland kicked the ball up in the air and put pressure on the opposition to see how they respond. But this was one game where I honestly thought France needed to be starved of the ball, and Ireland should have just kept the ball for long periods of time. France weren't playing particularly well, and we just kept kicking it back to them. And I think that was a mistake. I think the simple fact is that we actually played them back into the game. Now, there's many a different factor in it. I don't think Nigel Owens had a good game. I thought he got dubbed by the French with the HIA. I think he missed a lot of ruck time. He wasn't looking outside the ruck for offside, which they were a lot, because they were panicking about the wraparound. There were things like that, but it was still, there's very few players who you can point at and go, no, he played well. Like, the back line didn't play brilliantly, almost to a man, outside of 10. You couldn't point to anyone and go, yeah, look, he had a cracker. They all made errors. They all made simple mistakes. In the forwards, there were guys who battled hard. Word of note goes to James Ryan. I thought he was absolutely fantastic on a Six Nations debut. I thought he was one of the absolute vital cogs in the wheel for Ireland. And, Dan Levy, when he came on, Josh Van der Fleer, when he was on the pitch, all these guys were playing well. But it was, put it this way, if that drop goal had been missed by Johnny Sexton, Ireland would have been absolutely slated for performance for a game, possession-wise, that they always looked in control of, but just never, managed to push the scoreboard far enough away that the game was over, and never looked like scoring a try. And these are big, big issues we got to look at.
Yes, and I'm sure it's an issue that I know Joe Schmidt spoke about, looking at video and looking at training this week. And one man I'm sure he may be looking at is Jordan Larmour. Shane, we spoke last weekend and I asked you if you felt that Jordan could play a part in this Six Nations. And if we're looking for someone to be a little bit creative in next week's home match against Italy on Saturday, Jordan Larmour surely has to be in Joe's head for that.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I still am not convinced that he's had enough time that Joe will use him yet. You got to remember, we've Carberry sitting in the wings as well. Like until Larmour came on the scene, Carberry was the great attacking hope that we had in Irish rugby as well. Like the fantastic way he plays rugby. I do expect changes. I don't expect to stay the same against Italy. Not just as Italy now do, create more of a challenge that they used to. You can't disrespect them by changing your team completely. But a little bit of more attack orientated backline, I think, would be very much welcomed. It is something that Larmour can play wing, full back. Carberry can come in as full back. These are options I think Joe should start looking at now, because the game plan, as I say, against France, to me, was the wrong game plan. So we've got to start looking at other options, because this Six Nations is still going to be very, very competitive.
I'm sure, Shane, if you were to ask any of the players, Joe Schmidt, any of the fans, would you prefer performance or results? We'd all say result at the end of the day. If you can get both, great. But last night we got the main one, which was the results. What does this result do for setting up the rest of the championship for Ireland, the possible Grand Slam, possibly winning the championship overall? Because up until Johnny Sexton kicked that drop goal last night, you're going, things aren't looking very good here at all. And now we've won the game, and things are all rosy heading into Italy, hopefully.
Well, I put this into perspective. Okay, we've been negative enough about the way Ireland played and, a couple of individual performances. But it's, Ireland have only won a handful of times there since the Second World War, since the 40s. Since the 70s, only 3 times. It was a huge achievement to head over there and get a win, no matter what side you were playing against, no matter how you performed. The record books will show a win. The scoreboard doesn't tell a story, and that's exactly how it is. And the Six Nations is all about momentum. This was the fixtures this year sit very, very well for Ireland. One away game, which we've won, and now we've 3 home games, which is a superb opportunity to gather momentum, and that's what the Six Nations is all about. We've seen so many teams, unlikely or not, Wales, I suppose, are one of the best ones at it, that when they get momentum going, like as they did, say, in 2005 when they won the Grand Slam, that was just built purely on momentum and just getting ugly wins. And we'll take that in the Six Nations. It's over in such a short space of time. One team that is setting the pace normally can see that through. And wouldn't it be great for a video reel if it was set? Normally you have a drop kick to win a championship, but a drop kick to set it off would be something fantastic.
Shane Byrne, as always, thanks very much, Shane. We'll speak to you next Sunday as well in the aftermath of Ireland against Italy, which is at the Aviva Stadium next weekend. Thanks, Shane.